In the last installment of coverage for this magnificent tournament, my computer got a little too excited from all the greatness it was witnessing in the best tier of all time, so it skipped around a little bit. The frame rate was not great. But it was still generally serviceable enough until, for the grand finale, my computer decided it would up the ante and perform an unsuspecting cutoff of the result of the last battle. So what's playing right now is that last battle from the previous round before we get into the current round, the round of this video. And before we do that, and while the battle plays, I will tell you about my Sunday. So I was playing some basketball, and I hadn't been to my Sunday morning weekly thing in a couple months, because the last time I was there, I went up for a rebound, and I came down on my ankle, and I twisted it hard. That was painful. But my ankle's fine. I was a little apprehensive, like, oh no, what if... But no, there were no problems there. There are some other areas of interest. I had forgotten how much of a macho fiasco this thing can kind of turn into sometimes. It's not that common that it really turns into anything serious. It's usually just standard stuff. It's like guys convinced that they're fouled on every play, because they all think they're LeBron and they think the other guy breathing on them is cause for them to get banned from the sport of basketball forever. And half the reason they think they're getting fouled all the time is because they're tripping, first of all, but the reason they're tripping is not because they're uncoordinated. It's just that because they're very good players. Sometimes, they show off a little bit too much, and it winds up being to their detriment. But the reason they're tripping so much is they'll have 3 or 4 wide open teammates, and rather than pass to any of them, they'll drive into the opponent's entire defense standing in the same place in front of the basket, and mysteriously they never make the shot. And they always fall over, and they're always like, why are you hacking? And so that kind of stuff happens a lot. Not to say that there isn't the occasional hack, of course, but then it turns into, some shoving, some yelling, some intense stuff, and that's what happened in this case. And I was reminded of none other than competitive Pokemon and Smog Tours, because it really is not that different, except instead of people calling each other virgins over using Skarmory, then you have guys, shoving each other and screaming their heads off because they think their arm got pushed a little bit. Ugh. I did not care for that part. And I guess it's unlike Smog Tours in that that most of the people, screaming at each other that over using Skarmory are never actually going to start a physical confrontation. So I guess that's that. And then at the very end, then I had a interesting little moment where I was waiting for a ball to either go in or go off so I could try for the rebound, and I got just absolutely trucked from behind by this guy I did not see, and it messed with my back. I guess I know, like, oh, my back, I sound like an old person, but I also like going to these things because it makes me feel young. Not that we have too many ancient people, but generally it's like late 20s, 30s. Yeah, and I got trucked, and so like something about my back got yanked out, and I was still able to play after, so it's clearly not too awful. But I did have to make an appointment with a doctor for tomorrow. Yeah, it's okay. I got my revenge on the guy who did it, because I stuffed him from behind. God, so many euphemisms in the way you describe basketball. It's just wonderful. But it was a fast break, and he was like, oh yeah, I got this easy layup, and yeah, I'm going to brag about it because I'm still annoyed that I'm going to have to go to the doctor because of him, so hell yeah, I stuffed his seemingly free layup from behind. Yeah, anyway, so speaking of guys stuffing each other, we're now going to watch some Pokemon battles. High Lord versus Solon, an extremely hyped game. T-Tar versus Deoxys Speed. I feel like we've seen this matchup before. Rocks, Crunch, Sash for Kyogre leads, no Colbur Berry. And no payback from T-Tar, so that could be CB, but it could also be Sash, but it could also be bulky. Kyogre comes in, and it is going to reveal itself to be Sash as Kyogre surfs, and T-Tar gets up rocks. T-Tar goes down, so that's an interesting choice. I don't mean interesting as in like a polite way of saying it was bad. I mean that in a game as sacrifice heavy as DPP Ubers, generally if you can preserve a Pokemon just to die later on, that can and often is a major game changer later on when you're unable to take hits and you just need to be able to switch things in the first place. So if Hylord is sacking T-Tar here, then it's likely that he's very confident that whatever Pokemon he follows this up with is going to be able to carry enough momentum to not need the T-Tar sack later. It also helps that he was up 6-5, so now it's 5-5. But generally, it would not be uncommon to see Dialga switch in there. So Latios comes in. All right, reasonable that he wouldn't want that to come into Kyogre and eat an Ice Beam on the switch. Thunder and gets T-Waved. So, if it's gonna get T-Waved, then maybe it would have been worth to preserve the T-Tar. But the Thunder para on Kyogre means Latios still outspeeds and stays at full health. But now in comes Dialga, and that Latios gets preserved. Bronzong comes in. This was a favorite Pokemon of Hylord's throughout the tournament. And it absorbs the Draco Meteor nicely. It now pivots into Darkrai and eats another Draco Meteor, which it was clearly specs from, or at least boosted. My mental calc can be off. But it was clearly boosted, and I'm going to say specs from just how much it chunked what I assume is a fully specially defensive Bronzong. So Darkrai does manage to just barely withstand the second one at -2. But it gets the Dark Void off, and Dialga is put out of commission. And now something else has to switch in and take big damage. That's going to be a Palkia. So we've got a lot of sacrifices going on in this one. It is a Scarf Palkia, so it's not going to take 2 pulses. So Bronzong, on Hylord's end, we got dead T-Tar and Darkrai. We got a crippled Latios. In terms of paralysis, we got a heavily damaged Bronzong. Heavily insofar as once it drops to below 100, then your ability to take things like Palkia, Surf, and Rain, for example, are no longer as efficient. These kind of things are tenuous to begin with in such a high-powered tier. And for Solwind, he's got a Specs Dialga, which may or may not have Sleep Talk, so it might not be completely out of commission. It's also taking some damage because of Rocks and Bad Dreams. Palkia locked in the Surf is going to get taken advantage of by Hylord's own Dialga, and in comes a Wob. So depending on what this, that does. Now, Wob is not necessarily just going to mirror code it for the KO, depending on what it is. It could be a Scarf Dialga, but it could also be mixed, and that would run Outrage, but no, it doesn't look like that's the case, and it just gets mirror coded into Oblivion. So it looks like it was a Scarf Dialga. Yeah, a mixed one with Outrage there and would be quite a terror, but it's quite reasonable. We don't know his last yet, but he's going to want something to clean up at the end of a game. And so it's very possible it's something like a Groudon or some sort of set, like a Garchomp. I mean, something that can like really take over the game later on. And so, but you still need speed because you don't have speed anywhere else, or real speed anywhere else. Speed as in being able to take on things that are like a Mewtwo, for example. Things that are going to outrun Darkrai, which is a lot. Or like a Scarf Kyogre late game. So, that was a bad example because Scarf Dialga and Scarf Kyogre might tie. But, let's go with the Mewtwo thing, because clearly my brain is taking a while to kick it into gear. Or, you need the Scarf Dialga there for the Lucario check more than anything else. And then the late game sweeper, whatever it winds up being, to really take over, as opposed to mixed Dialga and then having the fast Pokemon in the last slot, because then you're just going to, then it's going to be more awkward in terms of actually sealing the deal later, late in the game. So in comes Tina O, which is not quite what I was expecting, but it can, it's got the extra priority of Shadow Sneak, which is always useful, and it's also an excellent wall breaker. So here comes Rayquaza, so that's not a good one, because Bronzong's not going to take it too well. Ray outrages Latios into dust, and Bronzong is not going... Well, if it has Protect, it might be able to take 2, but it doesn't look like it does. It blows up, and now it looks like Palkia is going to be able to take out Giratina O. Well, not necessarily, because if it doesn't have Draco Meteor, then Giratina O can live Spatial Rend, depending on its bulk. And then if the Dialga doesn't have Sleep Talk, or does have Sleep Talk and wakes up, then it can still win. But if the Palkia has Draco Meteor, then well, it doesn't, but Spatial Rend does KO. And Shadow Sneak does not crit, Spatial Rend does not miss or not KO. And that is game 1. Solon 1-0 lead going into game 2. Rai, T-Tar. I have to check the usage stats. T-Tar was absolutely everywhere as a lead. Which is not like it in when Generation 4 was the current gen, then T-Tar was not as popular a lead. It was like one of those anti-metagame leads. Generally, you let off with like actual Uber Pokemon. That was more common. Like Deoxys and Groudon, Kyogre, Darkrai, that kind of stuff. Dialga sometimes. So, Darkrai taunts Groudon on trying to T-Wave. And now he's going to switch into EQ, which does a big chunk thanks to the crit. And now T-Tar... Well, first of all, we missed the... Sorry, I was talking about other stuff. Darkrai sleeps the T-Tar lead, so it's either Band or Sash. And both potential Sashes are gone now because Darkrai gets hit by Sand and T-Tar is affected by Bad Dreams. Now, Groudon comes in and eats... on Thunder, so he was looking for... It hits Steels just as hard as Focus Blast, but also has the benefit of chunking Kyogre way, way, way harder, and also ruining something like Scarf Jirachi with Paralysis. So in comes Groudon, and takes nothing, but it is also stifled from setting up hazards by Taunt, so very cool Darkrai lead there. Not a Focus Blast to be seen. And in comes the Kyogre now on the EQ, gets crit. Okay, we're back to it. So Solwind goes to T-Tar here, which is an interesting choice. He sees it's lefties, so it's not... The odds of it being some sort of Kyogre variant that can't actually KO T-Tar, especially because we don't know what the set is. It could also be a Chople, not necessarily just Lum Sash or CB. So the odds of it being able to take one hit from Kyogre is significant, and the reason you're sending T-Tar in there is to prevent Kyogre from gaining more lefties, and it's going to stay at 30% at least for now. And that is going to be a big factor in winning the Weather War. We see from Groudon switching out, by the way, that it is actually faster than the Kyogre. That is an important mechanic to know. Who switches out first is based on whoever's faster. So Groudon switches first here, and that reveals that it is faster than Kyogre. That's significant for later on. And High Lord... was trying to go to Latios to regain some momentum, to not just like thud into a Kyogre check with a 30% Kyogre, and instead go to something more threatening like Latios. But this double for Solwind, well, I guess it's not really a double switch. Well, no, for High Lord it's a double switch. But yeah, this double switch winds up giving well, we don't necessarily know if it's a Choice Band Sleep Talker, which is unlikely. Choice Band has a lot of moves it wants to fit. Well, generally, if this has Grass Knot, then this is still a 5 matchup for Latios because the T-Tar's asleep. But even without, well, he's not going to risk it either way. He doesn't even want to take Draco Meteor, and he doesn't. He goes to Blissey and winds up dodging it to begin with. So in Sand, that would have stung significantly enough to make Blissey have to Soft Boil later. But he just goes for Seismic Toss. Kyogre comes in, tries to... Whoops. Kyogre comes in, tries to get some lefties on the rocks, or, whatever. Actually, no, it's, who knows if that has rocks, because the Groudon going for T-Wave earlier wasn't necessarily a sign it doesn't have rocks. It was more likely, because it could be something like Thunder Wave Swords Dance, the Paradancer, but it also could have just been, I'm going to T-Wave, and then I'm going to get rocks after for, an extra turn of lefties on Dark Pulse or something. And just spreading T-Wave is generally good. But it also could have been, Rocks Blissey. But no, Seismic Toss hits Kyogre, which was just trying to switch into, I don't know, replace the weather. That's also significant. But now Kyogre, if it doesn't switch in as rocks go up later on, then it's dead to them. So in comes Groudon on the Jirachi double switch. So that was another great move by Solwind. Rather than just going for the safe Seismic Toss, and then he goes to Groudon. Because if it's a rest Kyogre, then Groudon comes in and cuts off its rain as it rests and can get up rock safely, and it's just not a threat. It doesn't have any chance to get going, and he's active in shutting it down rather than just Seismic tossing around with Blissey and seeing what happens. And if High Lord switches to something else that can deal with Blissey, as he does, then he's also fine. Like, now he can get up rocks with Groudon if he has them. And yeah, in comes Kyogre once again, trying to get in on those rocks. And it does manage to sneak in with just enough health to spare. But it's only going to switch into rocks once more, because it can't even stand and go for lefties here, because as we see, not just from the switch earlier, but now officially with lefties, the Groudon is faster. So also it looks like Blissey is going to be very troubling. But he doesn't stay in an EQ, and the reason this might be is that it might not necessarily... Solwind is the only one who knows this for sure. But he could also be a zero-speed Groudon, and him recognizing that if he has zero-speed Groudon and he's winning that speed tie with the lefties, then he knows it's a speed tie because he doesn't have any speed. So that might be the case. Or he might also know, hey, High Lord's not staying in with this Kyogre here to just get die to EQ. He's going to switch to something. I'm going to go to T-Tar and maybe see if I can wake it up. And indeed, in comes a Dialga. So I think that... I don't know if High Lord noticed the leftovers there, because if he knows that Groudon is faster than the Kyogre, then he's also knows it's very likely Solon just stays in and goes for Earthquake, right? And if he knows that Solon's probably going to stand and go for EQ since he sees he's faster, then there's no way he goes to Dialga. So I have to assume, based on that, I mean, if High Lord's watching and wants to correct me, then please do. But I have to assume, based on that he did not notice the lefties thing and just assumed, yeah, Groudon's going to switch out of Kyogre here. I mean, maybe Solon didn't notice either. I don't know. But I don't know. Rather than speculate, now we have Dialga versus T-Tar, and Dialga gets rocks as Blissey comes in again. So Dialga does have Brick Break and crits Blissey immediately, and that is a game changer. So, as you see there, I mean, the Sand would actually, working against Blissey there, not letting it get lefties, but it still, with that roll, was not going to get 2 KO'd from full, even with Sand. So, the Brick Break on Dialga there is really crucial for helping this team deal with Blissey, so good to see it there, but the way that Dialga freely got rocks and killed the Blissey, that was almost a comedy of errors. Yeah, so in comes Groudon now, and it's going to get melted by Draco Meteor. I mean, it's Spadef, okay, so it's not getting melted. The Dialga does not have Shuka, so... but yeah, the rocks are up, and the Blissey is dead, and in comes a Latios, and the T-Tar is sleeping, so... special attacking threat. Now, in comes a mid-game Deoxys speed. You rarely ever see this, and when you do see it, it's on hyper-offensive stuff, not stuff with a Blissey. So that is interesting. Okay, it's Cosmic Power. I was going to say, what kind of cool spiking stuff is this going to do? And now it's a Cosmic Power sweeper kind of thing. So that's interesting. So with Cosmic Power, Recover, Pressure for PP stalling things like Draco Meteors, and I don't know what other moves it's going to run, like Seismic Toss and Taunt maybe. So Kyogre comes in, gets spiked on, and Hydros, and the Deoxys dies. That was puzzling, but in comes... Okay, you wanted to set it up for Giratina, which now can start doing some stuff. It shows Dragon Pulse. Is it going to show lefties? Yes, it is. Okay, so it's not the awesome Scarf Giratina. So it's from that Deoxys set, I'm going to assume, and the fact that this Giratina has Dragon Pulse, because the rest hog Giratinas tend to run no Dragon Pulse, then I assume it's going to be some sub-protect, whatever. In comes T-Tar to Sand Chip the Latios, but it's not going to beat it one-on-one, not by a long shot. And that Dragon Pulse does a ton, so it looks like a more offensive Sash variant. So, down it goes. In comes Lugia, another great wall. And if it's going to Calm Mind, then that can pose a threat, but it doesn't Calm Mind. It just Ice Beams, which is going to do enough for Latios despite the Soul Dew boost and Draco Meteor. And yeah, it doesn't look like Giratina, especially in Sand, is going to be able to pull off its Sub-Protect antics well enough to win this one. So this one was very dominantly in Solon's control, and then it slipped away very quickly. So that just shows the unforgiving nature of DPP Ubers and the high standard it demands to keep up with it. It's a Calm Mind Roar Giratina. Okay. And then comes Jirachi, which is just going to Scarf Ice Punch it. 1-1, Game 3. I'm just realizing now how hungry I am. Good lord. I might have to take a break, not to go to the bathroom, but to order some food. That would be a new one for me. Okay, Deoxys Speed, Kyogre, another classic lead matchup. He's going for Thunder, assuming High Lord is going to run Sash, so he wants to go for a Paralysis instead. That is a really bulky Deoxys, so maybe not Sash. And gets 2 layers of spikes as Kyogre Water Spouts it. In comes Dialga to follow up with those rocks. Water Spout does a chunk, and it's faster. Wackenberry, nice. So High Lord goes for a nice heads-up move there. Rather than just immediately going for rocks. Oh my god, when's the last time I ate? I didn't have dinner yesterday. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, that's one way to stay in shape. I'm kidding, that is not a way to stay in shape. So Water Spout is still threatening the Dialga, and High Lord, rather than just tunnel visioning, well, I gotta get my rocks, then he makes a good move and thunders right away, knowing that Solwind's best way of punishing those rocks is going to be to damage the Dialga as much as possible, and eating 2 fully powered Water Spouts is going to be, painful. So if Kyogre's going to stay in, then you don't need to get up rocks immediately, and in fact, it is better to first go for Thunder and weaken the power of Water Spout. That improves your one-on-one. He also winds up burning the Wackenberry and even gets a Paralysis for his efforts, so nice heads-up play there. And that goes for a Dragon Pulse, still not rocking, just to really ensure the Water Spout power is down. I guess it's the Water Spout power is still pretty hefty there, since Wackenberry weakened it outside of the expected Thunder range. So he Dragon Pulses. Not sure why he wouldn't Thunder again there. Maybe to hit a Dialga switch in or something. But the Water Spout has sufficiently been weakened. There's another Blissey. And now Thunder goes off again. And I really wanted to get rid of that Kyogre. Which, okay, I was going to say either he really wants to remove Rain for Sun, or he has Rock somewhere else. And with the Bronzong, then it's clearly Rock somewhere else. So there go the rocks. In comes a Forretress, and now in comes a Ghost almost surely. Yep. And it's Origentina, and he goes for the spin. But I don't think... I think in most situations you got a hazard there. Just because it's not like Bronzong's Dialga and can actually threaten to hit you on a cheapskate, I'm going to stay in on the hazard thing. Because with Bronzong, what's it going to do? Hypnosis? Not that it couldn't, but that would be a terrible risk to take. And at least you're guaranteeing you get some hazards, whether or not. You're exerting some pressure in return. I mean, you can still do that in front of the Giratina O, but you would have had even more to deal with. Like you could have had hazards and a Toxic on the Tina O. So this Fori is definitely not... Ooh, that's rough. It's not spinning, and it's also not spiking. So that was really another unfortunate crit that's going to put Solon way far behind for the second game in a row. And in comes Bronzong on the Dialga Rocks, and in comes another Tina O. So similar team to the last game, but with the Kyogre. And now the Giratina is going to try and sub, and yeah, but with all those rocks and spikes, and yeah, I think it's too low health to really get any such thing going. And there's a Calm Mind. Yeah, I can start pressure stalling Dragon Pulse. Gets a nice crit there, but it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be able to maintain a sub. I assume it would sub Calm Mind Dragon Pulse for Roar Dialgas, because otherwise, why wouldn't it be protecting? But yeah, another crit +1 Dragon Pulse, still not doing enough, and gets crit KO'd in return, so wild one. Yeah, but Solon's looking... Well, we still don't know the last Pokemon, but based on the offensive tempo of High Lords against the defensive cadence of Solwinds, then very likely... Yeah, wow, it's almost the exact same thing. It's looking quite likely that High Lord's ahead, especially if this Lugia... Okay, well, that boom does nothing, especially because they reflect. But with the special attack... I mean, Blissey can still stand in their way. If there's anything that can bring this back, it's Blissey. It's just a matter of... especially with the reflect, to temporarily guard against physical attacks. So Blissey's going to come in. It's a Hydro Dialga. Also, Blissey is supported by Scarf Dialga, which is a fantastic cleanup artist. So, Dragon Pulse. And down it goes. Okay, Kabutops. Yeah, so this is with low kick, and now we don't see Life Orb, so it could be CB. And, okay, it looks like it is. So CB Waterfall to try and win the game. So Lugia basically has to stop Kyogre, has to KO Kyogre here, because if Blissey comes in, then Lugia switches out and is in range of CB Waterfall, and Kabutops wins. And if it so it needs to be healthy enough to where it can't be KO'd by CB Waterfall and can then reflect or something. That might not even be enough. Depending on what its other moves are. But it's also unlikely that this thing can actually beat Kyogre. It's going to have Ice Beam as its attack. And Blissey comes in, and... yeah, it just goes right to Kabutops, doesn't even bother sacrificing it. On the soft-boiled, and CB tops Waterfall. It doesn't quite KO it, but it just gets Seismic tossed. And, yeah, that's going to be... I mean, I guess theoretically, if anything could stall it out, it's... well, it crits for good measure, and I guess there's flinch and stuff. Wow, some hacksy games. Who knows how that would have gone if a spike had gone up. That would have been very, very different. So, yeah, that's that series. I'm going to try and make it through another one before, because I'm seriously starting to fade. Well, I guess it's a sign. Take care of yourself. And, like, eat like a regular person. Pogis versus Eiko, T-Tar, Ogre... Hydro doesn't quite KO and gets a big C. Okay, no, that's not CB payback. That would have done more. But unless it's a really bulky Kyogre, but physically bulky Kyogre without lefties is no. So in comes Dialga in Sand, so that gets hit hard and doesn't have lefties, and Thunders. So Kyogre gets taken out, but it also basically KOs T-Tar and chunks Dialga. So Pogi's now going to have an advantage with his own Dialga. And there's a Mist Draco Meteor, so even more of an advantage as he gets completely free rocks. And now in comes another Bronzong. Taking Dragon Pulse for no damage, so Draco was definitely the right call. Get some meaningful chip on the opposing Dialga, and then go to your own Zong on the Dragon Pulse or whatever. So minimally no difference in terms of how you respond to the Dialga, but noticeable difference in terms of how much damage you're doing to it. Okay, so Groudon comes in, and in comes a Kyogre on Fire Punch. Is he going to go right for it? No, he's going to sub up. This might be the legendary Stone Cold Groudon. And EQ, Ice Beam. That was, I guess if it's Hydro Pump, you don't mind revealing Ice Beam as much as potentially missing Hydro just to break a sub. It is Hydro Pump, okay. Because if you have a Surf, you definitely go for it there. You don't reveal that you have another move. I mean, you think Ice Beam, it's obvious. Yeah, but not every Kyogre runs Ice Beam. So, in comes Kyogre and it's busted back sprite, so we're going to switch over to the other perspective. On the Thunder, that was a risky move, but hey, you're not going to just Dragon Pulse against Kyogre into Zong. You're going to go for Thunder. So that risky move has major payoff, and now Chomp is in. Great double switch to Dialga on the physical wall. Nicely done. I was thinking, oh, is that meant to target the Groudon? Because it could have been, but if it's sub Groudon, it's not going to be the most defensively inclined thing, so it's not a great Chomp check either way. But that means if the Groudon is coming into Chomp like that, then Pogis' team is so weak to Chomp, you're going to win anyway. So that was a great heads-up move. Not just countering, the physical wall, but gaining information either way. Because either you have a good matchup against the physical wall, like a Skarm, or if the Groudon comes in, then you know that you are in good shape to win later on. So, and Dialga is still going to threaten Ground 1-on-1. Another Draco miss on Dialga. That's really sad. Gets Earth Powered, doesn't... Okay, so that's a really especially defensive Dialga, because that EP did nothing. Probably going to get 2 KO'd. Oh, well, Draco Meteor out damages. So... And if you're wondering why Draco Meteor does more than super effective Earth Power, it's because Earth Power is 90, times 2 for super effective is 180, whereas Dialga has 140 times 1.5 for stab on Draco Meteor, because yes, Draco Meteor is 140 base power before Gen 6, and 140 times 1.5 is 210, so significantly stronger actually, 30 extra base power. So the Dialga does receive some significant damage in return from Pogis' own Dragon Pulse, but cannot be helped, I suppose. Now, Chomp comes in again. I assume it's because it can take Dark Pulse decently and it's Scarf and has Sleep Talk. But he winds up switching into Thunder, so that was an unexpected bonus. In comes Skarm. Eiko is not going to double switch out of this one. And in comes Dialga again. Is Pogis going to Whirlwind? No, he's going to Spike, so this is the last time the Dialga is going to hit the field, and it's going to chunk Kyogre significantly as well, but now he's a switch into Dialga, and goes right for a Draco, doesn't bother with Thunder, knowing the Skarm cannot risk itself lest Garchomp clean up. So now in comes Groudon at -2 with a sub. What's the answer going to be? Just going to stay in Barrage with Draco Meteor. Good move. That does a lot of damage, by the way, even at -2. And EQ takes it out. So in comes Latios, another special attacker, to continue the Draco Barrage, the beautiful partnership of Dialga Latios showing itself in full effect. And yeah, Draco... Oh, that sucks! As the first Draco does a ton, and that Skarm doesn't have lefties, oddly enough. I guess maybe because... that's weird. Skarm never runs non-lefties to DPP Ubers. It needs the recovery too bad, so I'm going to assume that was some cheeky anti-Magnezone Shed Shell nonsense. I guess it could be a resist berry or something, but I don't know. Anyway, so that really fortunate Draco miss saves Skarmory's health, and then Pogis goes to Groudon, trying to catch... I don't know. I guess he wanted to go to Groudon on Kyogre, because Latios would switch first, so if Kyogre switched in there, then on a second Rooster or whatever, then... Kyogre would switch in and replace the Sun with Rain, and then Groudon would switch in second and replace the Rain with Sun immediately. So that could have been it. Yeah, I guess. But so I guess he's really short on Kyogre answers at this point in the game. But Eiko just sacks T-Tar, plays it safe, and now in comes Kyogre or Latios again. It's going to be Latios. Drops another Draco, and yeah. Okay. That's, that one's going to get deleted. No way Groudon lives this. But Eiko's not going to risk it, having had some bad luck already. Now, the Groudon that subs, it could be sub SD or it could be like sub Lava Plume T-Wave like what legendary Dave Stone Cold used to do. It's sub SD. It's going to wind up doing nothing because Bronzong blows up to take the sub out. And now in comes Chomp. Probably going to go for the Dragon move. Oh, Pogis just forfeits to not reveal another Pokemon. Okay. Ray against Kyogre is going to be a Sash Ray. Many of them are. Outrage, Ice Beam. It is Sash. Now, what Steel type is going to come in? No lefties on the Kyogre. In comes a Jirachi. 2 or 3 turn Outrage, because it's 2 turns, so he gets to Preserve Rayquaza, goes to Dialga. No lefties, Jirachi going to be Scarf. U-turn. What's coming in here? Own Dialga. Shocker. Rock's going to be traded? No, right away with the Draco Meteor. On the rocks, lefties shown for Pogis, lots of special bulk. In comes Ray on the rocks, nicely done. He's like, okay, well, we wanted to get that early chip. I don't think that Ray thing was like long-term orchestrated. It was just, I'm going to get up rocks on the opposing rocks. And then with that early chip thing, it was like, all right, well, now the rocks are going to come up because clearly Eiko is going for that strategy where the Dialga is attacked as quickly as possible to wear it down. So Pogis picked up on that, got Ray in, and got another EQ off for significant damage. So we've got a really chipped team, well, on both sides, of course, because Dialga's taken roughly half its health and Rayquaza's down. But it's not for nothing, as Kyogre's under half health, well under half health, with rocks in the picture. Jirachi's been chipped, and Dialga is in range of a lot of things as well. In comes Groudon. Mewtwo is going to come in. Is this Lefty's Mewtwo? Yeah, I love Lefty's utility Mewtwo as a random check. Not random check, as a check to various threats. Because it doesn't really hard to counter anything, truly. But it winds up being a really good check to so many things. I mean, it could be utility, like 3 attacks recover. It could be Ice Beam, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp recover. Either way is fine. But look at how that EQ just bounces off. My goodness. So, great Pokemon. In comes a Jirachi. Eats another Ice Beam. As Mewtwo doesn't even need to recover. It can still come into Groudon and do that whole dance once more. Very cool. Another Scarfrachi answered with Eiko's own Scarfrachi. U-turn. Dialga comes in to get some lefties, which are going to be somewhat neutered by the U-turn coming in. Oh, the trick! They're going to be removed entirely and locked into Earth Power. So down goes Jirachi, but the Dialga is... Okay, and now another chance for Mewtwo to switch in. And answered by Jirachi. Is it gonna... I was gonna say, if this is that set with Ice Beam Flamethrower, and then I realized there's a Kyogre on Eiko's team, so probably not. But we see Aura Sphere, so not gonna be Taunt Wisp, could be Ice Beam Aura Sphere Calm Mind Recover, as that's one option. Or Ice Beam Aura Sphere Thunder Recover. Either way, Recover is... and that Iron Head bounces off. So that was really nicely done, knowing the trick is not likely, because it... I mean, I guess it's a risk either way, but you don't want to get U-turned on because of how battered Eiko's team is. It's a risk you gotta take. I mean, by that rationale, then Pogis should have tricked there. There was a lot of reason to do it. But then again, he doesn't know all of Eiko's team, and he might need that Scarf later on. So... I can see the reasoning for both players, but getting U-turned on the switch there, that was really, really bad. So, I can see why Eiko stayed in. And additionally, I can also see why, even knowing that, Pogis might not have wanted to trick. I mean, he really looks scared by this Mewtwo. And if the Jirachi doesn't beat it, I don't know what else would. So... Because it's if you're not afraid of... Yeah, it looks like he's really committing to this Iron Head route. Because if you had something else to switch in, then you would just U-turn and either catch the switch or take advantage of the recover. But it doesn't look like there's anything else. So, yeah, you're just going to stay in and try and flinch everything out. So, I mean, it's not a super reliable tactic thanks to pressure and just how little it's doing. But, great move. Oh, okay, well, he decided... Eiko decided to go for Draco Meteor there. And to catch a switch. I guess it wasn't... Cussap is never super expected. Even in that scenario, you could have just seen it as eating up more Jirachi Iron Head PP with pressure. But it just goes for Iron Head and chugs the Jirachi too, so it's really on a timer. Switches into Stealth Rock twice more. So... Well, it could be... No, it should be twice more. Shodan has fixed that issue where... in 2014, there was this issue where, like, you would see a Pokemon at 13% and it would get KO'd by Stealth Rock if it was neutral. Silly stuff like that. Still scarred by that. Yeah, so now in comes Kyogre, and... Not risking flinches, because Pogis is clearly in just Iron Head everything mode. Now, but the rain is replaced with... Or the sun is replaced with the rain, and Quillfish comes in. And great move. Now the Jirachi is KO'd by Spikes. Well, Rocks and Spikes, not just Spikes. So that was really nicely done. And the Weather War might not be won for Eiko necessarily, but that might not even be necessary because look how well Mewtwo does against this whole thing. Quillfish is sacked to get Mewtwo a safe switch. And, to get Latios a safe switch. So Jirachi is sacrificed because nothing's switching into this Draco Bomb with such a battered team. Oh, and it gets taken advantage of with a Calm Mind. That's even nastier. Now it comes Pogis' own Latios. This might have Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, you can't switch into it anyway. Second of all, with this being a Sun team, it's very likely that this Latios has HP Fire, so you might be faster anyway because of the dropped Speed IV. So the Calm Mind Draco Meteor just blasts it into oblivion. As I don't quite remember the role for Soldew Draco Meteor into +1 Soldew Latios, but especially with Rocks though, I think it's still at the very least extremely favored to kill. So now Pogis' Scarf locked Dialga comes in, and rather than risk the Latios, then the relatively useless Kyogre gets sacked because it's weak and you don't really need the rain for Quillfish anymore. And in comes a Magnezone. And it does reveal itself to be Call My Mewtwo, and that looks like it's going to clean up. Yes, it does. Good night, Magazone, and the other two are just dead to rights. It needs to survive +1 Ice Beam and get a crit. And then, even then, Latios is still probably going to win, because the Scarf Lock Dialga would have to Draco Meteor, and then there's no way that -2 Draco Meteor is going to KO the locked, the Soldew Latios from 75. So, next series, Johnny G2 versus 6A9 Ace Matador. This video is, it's 40 minutes long already. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to take a food. How many more series? We have a lot more series to get through, right? Yeah, got a ton. So, I should also mention the brackets that these players are coming from. For context, if you're following the tournament, I guess it doesn't matter too much, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, High Lord versus Soulwind was in the losers bracket. So that means Soulwind is eliminated from the tournament early on, which is not expected. Soulwind was a strong contender to win. So quick exit, it was very unfortunate. Obviously, Pokemon has something to do with it, with the things that happen. And then Eiko versus Pogis was from the winners bracket. So Eiko advances in the winners bracket, and Pogis drops to the losers bracket. Now, this Johnny G2 versus Ace Matador game is going to be in the losers bracket, so the loser of this goes home. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to keep going with this video, but I am going to order some food. So give me like 2 seconds. I already know what I'm going to order anyway, so it's going to take like no time at all. Alright, time to multitask as I narrate this battle while ordering food. I'm a very modern man in that sense. Diversified what is it? Diversified multicultural postmodern deconstructionist. That's me. And now let's deconstruct this battle. AM has been using some interesting strategies. There's a Tentacruel, there's a Ho-Oh. It had been too long since we saw a Ho-Oh. Bronzong is not what you think of when you think Ho-Oh answer, but it's interesting in that there's almost surely an EQ or Brave Bird coming there, and now you get to find out, is the Ho-Oh banded or not, in that you switch, presumably there's going to be a Kyogre there, and then you see, okay, well now I'm going to go to Kyogre, I'm going to draw the Sacred Fire. Of course, that's still... Johnny knows that might very well be the case. You're not going to risk Bronzong to Ho-Oh on turn 2. So even if he is banded, he could just EQ again. That's very feasible. And even if he's not, he could still go for Brave Bird. So it's like, I don't want this Kyogre switching in for free. So let's see how... Yep, there's Kyogre. And what does Johnny do? He goes right... Okay, he goes for Sacred Fire. So it worked out. No burn, lefties on the Kyogre. So, now Ho-Oh is going to Brave Bird again to stay in. It could be Pasho, as AM expected something like Latios, or a Lati-Twin maybe, to come in and fight the Kyogre off and get Bronzong in there for some rocks, but now he's got... I was going to say, is he going to risk the Sacred Fire to get up rocks here early in the game? But no, he goes back to Kyogre and avoids a second Sacred Fire burn, and now Johnny switches out and goes to Dialga. So that was a really nice move, and you would wonder, well, if the position's the same, why not make the same move? And he was like, well, first of all, AM's clearly doing a lot of switching just to dance around this Kyogre, so he might think, okay, I've got him now, and he might want to, do exactly what he did. I mean, he could still be Pasho, but now that he's chunked the Bronzong a little, he's already made something happen, so he can say, okay, look, now there's no way, seeing as I've stayed in and showed him that I'm willing to go one-on-one with this Kyogre, there's no way he switches out again, right? And since I've shown him that, now I can use that to guarantee I get my rocks up first with Dialga, as opposed to potentially having them both go up at the same time and have Ho-Oh crippled. Or, I go back to Ho-Oh on the rocks and then I don't have rocks. So this way, getting for rocks first with Dialga was nearly guaranteed. So that was a really great move on Johnny's end. So rocks go up, Zong comes in, and now I assume Ho is going to come back in before the rocks go up. And yeah. Now it's is this going to burn? Yeah. Third try, no burn. Scald burns more than this. So now Pasho, and it is Pasho. Sorry, Brave Bird, and it does show that it's Pasho Berry. Okay. So yeah, Ho just showing what an absolute menace it is to a rain team in rain. What a wonderful Pokemon. So now Latios comes in on the Sacred Fire, and that burns. I ordered my food while saying that, by the way. So Surf comes on in. Ho, what a beast of a Pokemon. In comes Dialga, which is going to take a huge chunk from Draco, but it'll live. And, less than I thought. That is like max, which isn't a surprise, but he goes for Thunder, trying to hit the Bronzong. I get it, but at the same time, I think with the Latios being burned and the Bronzong being weakened and the Dialga being at such high health, I think it was probably the move to just attack. You gotta start making some serious. You gotta start making up for how far behind you are at this point. So I think just Dragon Pulsing was the move there. Because if Bronzong comes in, it's weakened. Who cares? I mean, if it's Draco Meteor Dialga, then okay, that makes more sense why he wouldn't want to Draco into Zong. But still, anyway, he Thunder and crit pairs his way through it. Well, the pair doesn't do anything, but he does crit his way through it. So the luck's bouncing back in Johnny's favor in this one. In comes Mewtwo. In comes Wob. And so AM's got some T-Spikes abuse specialties. And it's a lefty's Mewtwo. If it has Taunt, then no, yeah, it's going to sub. So that's not the worst thing to be encored into. I mean, it's still going to be exploitable, but it's not like he's being encored into Calm Mind, which would last forever. Because with Substitute, you can theoretically just, ride out the Encore. But that's not going to be the case here. He sacks Latios on the Rock Polish. And now goes back to Mewtwo. But it's even if it lives in EQ, which is not Life Orb, it's going to be Lum. It's not going to KO back with Ice Beam. So really liking Johnny's team. It's very, very fierce. And yeah, Scarf Jirachi can outrun some really bulky Rock Polish Groudons, but it's going to take this one home. On to game 2. AM leads off. Well, we see 2 Tentacruels. We see another Zong. We see Zong coming right in to get up rocks. In comes Kyogre on those rocks. And what's the answer? It's going to be Tentacruel to absorb those T-Spikes, but you can't. Wow, that is a Specs Kyogre. You can't sacrifice the Tentacruel here because otherwise the other Tentacruel's T-Spikes start taking over. So we had to get rid of the T-Spikes with his own Tenna and then take half health from the quadruple resisted Water Spout. And that is the power of Specs Kyogre, which is often forgotten these days. Good lord. So Draco Meteor takes a chunk out of Dialga, but yeah, it's going to get up rocks safely. Now, even though Tentacruel does die to rocks, a crucial mechanic is that even if it dies to Stealth Rock, it is going to absorb T-Spikes from Tentacruel. So we can do that one more time. In comes T-Tar. What set is this going to be mid-game? Throws out a superpower. Doesn't look banded. Yeah, on a Scarf Jirachi, that band is basically as strong as Crunch. So U-turn on the Bronzong. In comes Tentacruel. Tentacruel and Sand. This is definitely a good matchup for Zong. But, he wants to get in a Chomp before. Well, he doesn't. Yeah, no, that's a fine move. That increases freedom in terms of getting Chomp in, as opposed to having to sack Tenna just to get Chomp in. And he tries to get a sub. Sandvale not cooperating, and just EQs. And in comes Mewtwo. So Tentacruel, Sand. I mean, it could still be a Kyogre in the last slot there. In comes Mewtwo on the Bronzong on the Ice Beam. We see another lefty's Mewtwo. We don't know what set it is. It's not going to want to taunt Will-O-Wisp and on the Bronzong. It's not going to risk that. And instead, Kyogre comes in, Tentacruel sacrifices itself, and with Johnny's Tenna down, then it's, done its job. Now Palkia comes in, gonna fire off a Thunder, or a Draco Meteor, and that blasts through the Jirachi with the crit. Not sure that one mattered, though. In comes Dialga again, and it's gonna be another... Oh no, T-Tar replaces the Rain with Sand. Great double switch by John. That was really nice, because regardless of whether T-Tar or Zong came in there, Kyogre is going to have a good matchup. Especially because, as you see here, Palkia is faster, so it switches first. So T-Tar comes in and puts up Sand, and then Kyogre is going to get the Sand again. So let's watch that again. Palkia switches first. So little things like this, really, really important. Switch order is a determining factor. So, Surf takes out the T-Tar. Chomp is without Sand. So, that's not going to be... I mean, Sand Veil is obviously important, but he also will not be able to prevent the Mewtwo from getting lefties, which is crucial. So, Chomp subs down to Salic. Now it's going to SD, but even a +2 EQ, probably not going to... Well, okay... No, it's still with lefties. See, that's the thing. It's still probably not going to take the Mewtwo out. Okay, so it's Salic Outrage as opposed to Dragon Claw. So it does take out the Mewtwo, but it is going to get revenge killed by Tina O. And now is time for AM's Unrevealed Lugia, which with Calm Mind can take over a late game like this against offensive teams. It's really going to be down to like Thunder Paralysis and silly things like that. So I think he could have calm-minded right away. Oh, that's and an immediate para. I was going to say, I think he could have calm-minded on the switch, because you calm-mind against Tina O pretty safely, and you just roost after, no matter what it does. But, yeah, immediately gets para'd. That was a little quite unfortunate. And now it looks like Dialga and Tina O are going to beat... I mean, not necessarily... Bronzong can do some stuff. Well, I mean, not with that Thunder crit. But if it was Protect Bronzong, maybe it stood a chance. But even with, then, yeah. Yeah, so Johnny advances. Or stays alive, rather. Who is messaging? This better be important. Okay, it's not. Yeah, okay. Lorianne versus Stone Cold. Legendary Dave, Darkrai... Deoxys dodging Darkrai and taunting. That is not a good start. Rocks, T-Wave. We don't know if that Deoxys is Lum or not, though, in fairness. And it's T-Waving and spiking, and yeah, it's getting 3 spikes. Okay, it's getting 2 spikes unperturbed and choosing to preserve the Deoxys. I think you could have gotten that. You got to get that 3rd spike. And then you're switching into a -2. And he subs up with the Dialga against the sub... Okay, never mind. I was going to say if it's like a sub-special attacker, then this is dangerous. But this is just completely walled by Scarm. So that early advantage... If he can't break through Scarm, then that early advantage might come to naught. He subs up assuming... Oh, very nice. On the Toxic. And now he's going to go for... Yep, this is the legendary Dave Groudon. Getting the burn right away, so now even the Dialga is more threatening. And Whirlwinds into Deoxys, which is going to get that 3rd spike. He's going to taunt first just to prevent Scar from healing, obviously. But oh, he's going to preserve the Deoxys. Interesting choice. In comes Jirachi. You see, sustaining this heavy damage, I'm not sure about. But he draws the -2 and gets Groudon in again to force another KO. Now, Lorianne's still in this because Darkrai's Dark Void is going to take something out, and that would, that's one of the best arguably the best tool you can have in starting a comeback. Deoxys is going to get sacked. Is it going to be Lum? It's not going to be Lum. So it's a Scarf Darkrai, though, as evidenced by how it outsped Deoxys on the first turn. So that makes it easier to play around. He goes back to Groudon and immediately replaces Rain with Sun. And he's faster. He subs. I don't know if that was necessary. I think that was a little overdoing it, perhaps. Because he could have survived the Ice Beam before. Now he's going to get KO'd. He would have beaten the Kyogre one-on-one because it is faster. So that was, yeah, the advantage was disappearing. He goes for Draco here and gets a KO, and so that's still a fine position because Giratina O goes down, and Kyogre is nearly completely dead to Rocks and Spikes. He only switches in once more, but then comes Dialga and gets EQ'd, so really getting a lot of damage in return. Gets up Rocks, so Tina O is actually going to beat this as well. So, it's not. But it gets crit in return, so that was fairly deserved with the early silliness. There's a Healing Wish, and in comes Stone's Dialga to try and pull some sub-protect antics. It gets roared out thanks to the way Healing Wish works in DPP, but with Skarmory out of the picture, Stone also has a Garchomp, and that's like the scariest thing you can have in a situation like this. So in comes Latias, and if it's Scarf Chomp, it just gets Draco Meteor. But now the threat is more the Sub-Protect Dialga, which is going to take over a game like this if it's a Sub-Protect Bulk Up Dragon Claw. Because the answer is, I think that merited a sub. He's going to Trick. Okay, well, no, this is over anyway. Never mind. Because with Focus Blast, it might have gotten chipped into Draco Meteor range, but if that's not the case, then it's just going to sweep with Dragon Claw. And that's game 1. Stone with the 1-0 lead. How long until my food gets here? It always says it's going to be 20 minutes or something, and then it winds up being like an hour. 14 minutes. Game 2. Yeah, that was a really haxy one. Dio Speed again into a Tentacruel lead. Tentacruel gets tricked, gets a Scarf. Deoxys gets a Lumberry, which is going to help it against those T-Spikes if it switches out. And another T-Wave going off immediately. And spiking, so we're going to see a Rocks Dialga or something later. Groudon, okay, gets T-Spiked. And is going to get it's going to EQ right away on the Kyogre showing Hydro Pump, hitting through Paralysis there. And goes for a T-Wave on the Tina O switch and hits Zong. Now, here comes Giratina O, which is, as we just saw from that previous series, a terror for Rain teams in Rain. So, it just goes right for Brave Bird and deletes the Tentacruel. So, Tentacruel got a T-Spikes. It did its job, but still funny. Now, Kyogre being paralyzed, that's really something, especially because it looks like it's moved to... It might go for Thunder there, which is why Dave goes to Groudon and takes Hydro Pump quite well. And now gets up Rocks. So Groudon is only going to be able to switch in once more once Zong gets Rocks up. But now Ho-Oh comes in once more. And if it gets a sub up, that might be the Zong's going to sacrifice itself to prevent that sub. And now that Rocks are up, Ho is going to be forced out. Well, it's not going to be forced out for nothing, because it can still sub-spam on this Kyogre, which doesn't have lefties. I don't know. It's just going to go right for the Brave Bird and get the KO, which, with an offensive Ho, is very likely to KO an offensive Kyogre, especially from that range. So, I don't know. I don't know if that was the move, sacrificing Ho. Well, okay, no, he dodges the Thunder and permanently replaces the Rain with Sun, so that's useful. It's just that I guess I take it back. That was a good move, because Ho-Oh and Dialga Ho and Groudon are both going to be death fodder. But at least by going to Groudon here, you replace this Rain with Sun, and thus you ensure that you are better off in the event that there's like a Kabutops or a Kingdra later on. So Draco Meteor deletes Darkrai, in comes Lorianne's Dialga. Here comes Ho-Oh as the sacrifice. And there's a sub. And if this Dialga... Well, no, okay, it's not faster, so... Sacred Fire breaks that sub, and it gets roared out. So, I don't know if I agree with that, because that gives Stone another sacrifice. Now he still has Ho as death fodder. I get the need... he's so far behind that... Or Stone is so far ahead, I guess that you need some sort of desperation dragon... get more information. He does get more information by dragging in Mewtwo. And getting an extra turn of poison on it, since if Mewtwo came in after a sacrifice, then it wouldn't be taking that poison damage, so that is significant. But I don't know, it's looking like a Dialga cleanup either way. So Mewtwo with Sunny Fire Blast plows through Dialga and doesn't give Giratina a free switch, so that's really crucial. So replacing Sun with Rain was big there. Because you could say, oh, well, what about Aura Sphere into Giratina O? Maybe Stone will Ice Beam to try to hit the Giratina O, and then Dialga will stay in and start bulking up, and it'll all get out of hand. And if that was the situation, I would say just Aura Sphere, because if Dialga switches out, then it's not healing, and you are probably going to clean it up with Dialga anyway. And or we don't know what the last is, but you also have the sack in Mewtwo, so you don't even have to sack Mewtwo against the Giratina O. You just sacrifice Ho-Oh, then you go back to Dialga and all that. But the Fire Blast there was a nice little mid-ground. And now Tina O comes in and sneaks Mewtwo, and are we going to see the last? No, it's just going to be Dialga coming in and barring some serious bad luck. Dragon Pulse, doesn't even Draco Meteor, just Dragon Pulses. And that is a 2-0 win for Stone Cold. Why is that doesn't feel right. Let me check this. Was that from the playoff thing? I think I just I was gonna say that seemed like a matchup from the playoffs. Why did that? Because I'm going from the replays, the spoilerless replays channel in the server of the tournament. Did I go back too far? No, I did. I double-checked the... Apologies for this, by the way. Oh, no. That was... Okay, then why do I have this, Oh, Stone versus Pogis is from the next round. Okay. That's from playoffs round 3. We're in playoffs round 2. Sorry, I thought I had, suddenly just done something... Yeah, okay, so Pogis versus Stone does not interest us right now. Instead, we are going to another round 2 series, which is, yeah, that was Stone versus Lorianne in the loser's bracket. So Stone advances to playoffs round 3. And now we have Jirachi versus M Dragon. So, wow, I think we are going to be able to get through. Okay, maybe not. There's still a lot of series left. Okay, so, moving on to... Jirachi versus M Dragon. Another Ho-Oh lead. Excellent. Deoxys speed. 9 minutes till my food is delivered. Sacred Fire burns, and the Sash Deoxys as spikes go up. So the presence of rocks somewhere else means that it is going to be a... the presence of Ho-Oh lead will not prevent Deoxys from getting up both rocks and spikes. So, it goes to Latios for Thunder, and the Ho-Oh, in most situations, I think would stand in Brave Bird, but that might be a banded Ho-Oh, and that it didn't want to stay in and use Sacred Fire. So he goes right for Jirachi, and no need to risk Ho-Oh this early in the game before rocks are up. So, especially because Jirachi U-turns and brings Ho-Oh right back in. So, it's going to go for a Sacred Fire, and that's definitely banded, because that does over half to Latios. And now in comes Tyranitar instead of Jirachi and eats a big Draco Meteor. So, I don't know, but I guess maybe the T-Tar is a better matchup against a double switch to Dialga or something. Oh, okay, it gets rocks. Okay, that's why. Now in comes Jirachi's Ho-Oh again, and that gets rocks up. So Ho-Oh is coming in and claiming a lot of KOs, but at least it's getting chipped by sand now. I mean, you really got to take every percentage you can get with Ho-Oh, because it's so hard to deal with before rocks are up, as... these videos are showing. God, I love Ho. In comes Rayquaza, which SDs freely, unafraid of Sandstorm Chip because of Airlock, and I assume Lumberry, otherwise it wouldn't have danced like that. And there's the Outrage on the T-Tar sack. Oh, it's a Life Orb. Okay. So, assuming Ho wouldn't stay in there. Didn't want to just blindly Outrage. But so Ho is Death Fodder, still going to be at a little under half. And Dialga reveals itself as the Revenge Killer, and Ray goes down. Now, Jirachi coming in with Body Slam. So, that's it. Yeah, this set is an interesting one. It's not something you usually see, because I think it's more offensive than anything else. Generally, you're going to see... oh, it doesn't have U-turn. Okay, I might be thinking of something else. I'm thinking of the lead set that Jirachi was using. Yeah, so in comes Dialga, avoiding a paralysis move, and subs up on the Body Slam, and now this might get... Okay, well, there's a Groudon for bulk up, so might not get too ugly. But if it's bulk up Roar, then maybe... But the Groudon's faster, so, unlikely. Sub gets broken. It does get roared, so that's not necessarily good for beating Groudon, but good for making more damage happen in other places. But it roars into Ho-Oh, which now has Sun support and is not going to burn the Dialga, but still chunks it really hard, even at +1 defense, because Sunny Banded Sacred Fire does 1,000,000 damage. So looks like the Dialga is going to get its sweep cut short. He was looking to maybe roar in Jirachi, but that didn't happen. And if Jirachi's coming into Groudon, the last is probably not too great against it. And it gets T-Waved after 1 flinch. And, maybe this paralysis can't... Nah, it's still unlikely. There's too many Pokemon to deal with. In comes Latias. And we've got a nice Sun Sand team from M-Dragon here. So, to really help control the weather. And, okay, there's Garchomp. It's Scarf, so it's not going to be able to beat everything at the same time. And, yeah, down it goes. So, 1-0 M-Dragon. Game 2, we'll switch to keep the same perspectives. Ray, T-Tar. Ray does not beat... T-Tar does not beat Ray leads because of Airlock, meaning Focus Sash prevails in the face of Sandstorm. There's an EQ, and neither Pokemon gets chunked. It is a Sash Ray. T-Tar gets out of there, not wanting to go one-on-one with it, and a Draco miss. That is unfortunate. Now, because Latias would have been, dead, and instead now Bronzong is going to get up rocks, and Ray has basically died for nothing. He might come in on the rocks here. Nope, it's just Chomp coming in and scaring it out, and EQing, and wow, that is a banded Garchomp, almost certainly, because the whole reason Dialga would stay in there is that regular Chomp does not come close to KOing Dialga. It's crazy bulky. And you would think, oh, Jirachi's just, going for desperation plays or something. But no, that is a banned Chomp, and that makes things interesting. So Latias comes back and makes a double of Fortress on the Bronzong. So good move. Nothing punishes Bronzong quite like Fori, unless your team is entirely Spikes immune. So he goes to Rayquaza to block Rapid Spin. Nice move. And now in comes Latios to... By the way, Jirachi's nicknames are referring to the rule I had in this tournament where every team you make must be built by you. It's obviously nothing you can seriously enforce. You have to, enforce an honor code to it. But Jirachi likes making fun of me as his nickname, so. Yeah. HP Fire goes off. And Fori does not spin for fear of a Giratina. Just gets another layer of spikes. So now a lot of damage has been going on as T-Tar switches in and gets obliterated by Latios. I have to free up some space on my computer because this video is going so long, which was not planned. On the drive, I have to rearrange my settings on my drive anyway, so I have more space for it. Because on my other drive, where I have a bunch of stuff saved, then there's all the room in the world. But for some reason, I still have my videos saving to this one. So I'll change that probably after this. So now, yeah, here you see with the damage being doled out by the dragons and the defensive core is broken through, and then the revenge killing options for those offensive dragons are stopped by Bronzong. So that is the power of Zong in conjunction with super, super strong dragons. So in comes Ogre, takes nothing from Payback, but nothing is taking dragon moves on M-Dragon's end anymore, so it looks like a bulky Kyogre, so Latios can switch in, and it might lose this one-on-one. Oh, Protect, great set to survive, get every bit of leftovers recovery you can. Thunder chunks it, and Ice Beam is going to take it out in return, and it's going to be over half health after the next Protect, unless a T-Tar comes in. But no, Chomp comes in, and with Choice Band Outrage or even Earthquake or Dragon Claw, it's just going to melt something. So yeah, even if this gets revenge killed by Latias or Dragon Claw or Chomp, then Bronzong comes in. And now with Kyogre going down, then it's going to be Bronzong City. So, oh, the guy's calling me for, ano, prosím. Ano, hned tam jsem, díky. DK. It wasn't a guy. Now I feel bad. Yeah, Dialga comes in. Yeah, I have to go pick the food up in a second. But Dialga comes in, and Calm Mind Latias survives because it's insanely bulky with Soldu, and takes it out with Dragon Pulse in return. But now Darkrai is going to finish it off. So playing it very, very safe. Nicely done by Jirachi. And Latias gets preserved, but it dies to rocks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And Bronzong is going to beat that, but it looks like it's going to be a Scarf Darkrai, which unleashes Ice Beam. And Scarf Darkrai is awesome because it outruns things like Swift Swimmers and +2 Groudon. And I just like seeing Darkrai use Ice Beam because it's so rare. So now I will... Actually, you know what? I'm going to preserve the deciding game 3 for the next video. Ultimate Cliffhanger. Also because I don't want my computer to run out of memory or something stupid while it's still recording. And I have to go get my food. So, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Today's movie recommendation is Lost Highway.